We're KDH Counseling, and Monet is here to join me on podcast/video, however we decide to put this out. And she's going to talk today about what?
We're talking about how I serve basically like entire family systems without actually doing family therapy, if that makes sense. Really honing in on like the relationship that I have with my adolescent clients' parents, which is a mouthful.
Yes. And I want to clarify this. So Monet is an LPC.
Yes.
She's been in private practice for a while now, been out of school for a long time. I'm KDH or KD. That's what most people call me. It's Keisha, but I go by KD as well. And we are trying to educate more people on counseling and the counseling process to have better outcomes in therapy. I mean, that's the basis for why we're doing this.
I could know that better myself. I love that explanation.
I think it's a good one because it really is about the outcomes. And so why do you think it's so important to include families in teen therapy?
How I say it. So, is it okay if I describe like how I have my first session with my minors? Okay.
Yes.
So what I do when I have a parent call on behalf of their minor child is I let them know what to expect. So for the first session, which is a 60-minute session, what we call traditionally an intake is depending on the dynamic of the family. I will either see the parent caregiver. If there's multiple parent caregivers, they're all invited, plus the child. The first 30 minutes is all of us together, making sure that we're on the same page. And then the remaining 30 minutes is me and the child beginning rapport building. If the child and the family are like just talking and giving me really great information, sometimes we're all in the room together for that hour-long session. It's just kind of, I let it flow naturally. And so what I tell the parent in that intake session and the client themselves is, I'm going to let the parent know what they need to know specifically with regards to their child's safety. And what I say is the idea behind that is I get your child for like an hour a week. You get them for the remaining time. So you need to be informed and know what's going on. I want to maintain confidentiality and I want to respect the child and I want them to feel confident and trust me. But at the same time, there are certain things that parents just have to know about. And how I try to phrase that to the client is I'm always going to let them know what I'm going to tell the parent so that they're aware of it. And then sometimes if I feel like it would be an opportunity for connection with a parent, I'll really encourage the child to talk to them first. And so I'll say, okay, you're going to tell mom, you're going to tell dad, you're going to tell grandparent this thing that you told me. And then I'm going to call them tomorrow and I'm going to make sure that you did tell them and just provide that additional therapeutic support to the caregiver so that if they have questions, concerns, I can provide my clinical opinion at that point.
So what is safety? Because I know what you mean when you say safety, right, but I think often parents don't understand safety as it relates to therapy.
Yes. So for safety for me, if a child is suicidal, if they are homicidal, if they are self-harming, parents are definitely going to know. When it comes to kind of the taboo subjects of sex and drug use, I'm gauging with my clinical lens, is this person putting themselves in danger? Are they engaging in risky sexual behavior? Are they engaging in risky drug use, using needles, all that kind of stuff, like really dire stuff, which fortunately has not come up. And I feel like my clients do trust me that if they were doing something like that, they would tell me. And more often than not, I'm really surprised because they'll tell me knowing that information because I think they want their parent to know. And maybe it's just easier for a Monet, the therapist, to break the news than the child have to do it on their own. And I am so happy to do that.
Oh, I like that. I think that's a good way to look at it too. You know, that they do know the rules of engagement in the office because we're very upfront, right? To start off with. So if they tell you something, it is a cry for help. Lack of a better word. I hate using that.
No, absolutely. It's kind of like waving the white flag, like, please surrender. I'm overwhelmed. My adolescent brain cannot compute further beyond this. I need adult assistance. So.
Well, and do you find that by having everybody on the same page that it's helpful for the parents and the teen, or is it more just about helping the teen?
I think I want to do it for the benefit of both parties. I want to be transparent. I want to build trust on both sides because I conceptualize it as working collaboratively. While I'm not having sessions with the parent, I am following up and being supportive as much as I can, and providing resources and any kind of advice that I could offer to them. So I want them to know too. I wasn't always very fortunate to have to work in the private practice setting. And I feel like I've honed this skill set. I feel very confident about this, but I have had really negative experiences in the past where I wasn't so intentional about this relationship. And so I think from those experiences, rather than dwelling on them and feeling like a terrible counselor, which I did do for a long time, I learned from it and then became really intentional about it. So I hope it is benefiting the parent or the caregiver as well.
I like that. It's well, and it seems like if it helps the caregiver, then it helps the child. I mean, it's all, yeah, it's all kind of one system that works together.
Mhm.
So, do you have any questions that often come up with parents, or like what are the, I guess, yeah, things that they most often ask that they're not aware of as a whole?
They're often really passive in session, which is really interesting. I think that maybe sometimes they're reluctant to sit down with me. Like they want to be like, just take my child. And I'm like, no, you get to come and join us too, kind of thing. I think like a testament to whether or not I've gotten buy-in from them is if they're approaching me like via text or via phone call and kind of letting me know what's going on in between sessions. And that's kind of how I gauge how much I speak to them. So like some parents are really hands off. It's like they trust the process. I've laid it out for them in the first session. They will let me know if like really concerning things are coming up. Some parents are super hands on and they're like, hey, can I give you a call? I've got this worry, or can you please address this in session? So I think it's not so much that they have questions. It's just kind of they learn to trust the process and trust me, which is a huge gift. Like I know that that's scary.
Well, and you use the word buy-in.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we know that again, this is like counselor terms, sorry,
Yeah.
buy-in, but what does buy-in mean in the therapy session?
I think buy-in means like they have a realistic set of expectations. Maybe they came in and they're like, oh, well, this Monet's going to cure my child. And I bust that myth real fast because I talk about how I honor where a client is in their life and respect that. I think that they recognize my skill set, that I probably communicate really effectively, that I know what I'm doing, but that I also work collaboratively. So I take feedback and I want to hear from them. Um, I already forgot the question that you asked, but I hope that answered it. Like, I think I answered it.
No, I'm just, what does buy-in
What
mean?
is
And
buy-in?
just,
Yeah.
yeah,
So I think that's it. Buy-in is them committing to bringing their child to the next session. Buy-in is trusting that process, that it's not going to be like the next session, their child is cured, so to speak. Because we don't really cure things. We help manage and empower. But
yeah, and
yeah.
following through. I guess when I look at buy-in, because I do more individual sessions,
Mhm.
it's them actually doing what we talked about. So I guess with a parent, it would be like, did you check on them, or
Yeah.
did you bring them to therapy the next time?
Mhm.
Were they on time? I don't know. I'm trying to think of buy-ins.
No, that's really appropriate. They're communicating with me when I communicate. So like if I'm initiating a conversation, they're responding, they're responsive. They're great about getting the child here on time, picking the child up on time. They're great about rescheduling if they need to, keeping me informed about what's going on. So just kind of reciprocal respect, I think.
Yeah. Well, and the parents are such a, this is making me think the parents are such an important part of therapy, especially if they don't drive yet. And even if they
Right.
do, because they're probably paying for the service and they're making
Mhm.
sure the kid shows up. And so
Yeah.
if you don't have that connection with the parent, it would probably mean, it could mean, not always, but it could
Mhm.
mean less attendance for the teen.
Yeah, I think so. If the parent doesn't recognize how significant it is for the teen to be here, then they may just think like, oh, my child's good, or they don't need it anymore, a kind of thing. Whereas like if I'm communicating what we're talking about and the themes that are coming up, then I think they understand necessity to continuously bring them to session.
Yeah. I like that. So you
Mhm.
stay pretty connected with the parents. You try to.
I try to, yeah. Like I said, the ones that are like really forthcoming, I'm like, heck yeah, let's reinforce this. I love this conversation, and I think they do feel supported. And so much of that is like my motivation. I don't have children, and I'm probably not going to have children because being a parent is really hard. I really admire people who make that choice. And so I know that it can be, know from like secondhand accounts that it can be really humbling to make the decision to bring your child to therapy.
Oh, yeah.
And I love to be like, I don't expect parents to know everything. Like there's a reason we go to grad school for 3 years to learn the skill set that we do. And I don't expect parents to have that same skill set. And I'm super honest, like, I'm going to be like, Mom, I'm going to tell your child the exact same thing you've been telling them. And for whatever reason, they're going to trust me and believe me. And I know that you've been saying it. So let me give credit where credit is due, kind of thing.
That's hilarious, but it's so true. It has to
Oh
come from the
yeah.
outside
And
first.
I'm in this weird age range. So I'm 32. I'm in this weird age range where like I'm not necessarily mom's age. I'm like aunt's age or older sister's age. And so I'm still cool. But yesterday I was very humbled because the client was like, sometimes you sound like a teenager and sometimes you sound like an adult. And I was giving like advice on how to reach out and connect with people. And she's like, that sounds like something you'd say on Facebook. And I was like, I'm decrepit. I'm an old lady, but it was fine. So yeah, I definitely am very cognizant of that as well as like my age, how I dress. It appeals to younger people. And so like they feel comfortable. And I'm going to just say the same thing that mom and dad or whoever else in their life has been telling them. And because I said it, it just clicks.
I know. It's a tough one. Look, it's the same way I think for adults though as well. Like people come in wanting to help a loved one. That's an adult, right? It's not a kid. Maybe it's their sibling or their significant other. And for whatever reason, they won't listen to them. They bring them to a counselor. Counselor says the same thing and they listen. I mean, that's just the nature of humans. So yeah, no different for teens. Well, is there any other things you'd want to say? I think it's such an important topic. I guess, I've been doing this for a while. I don't see many teens anymore, but when I used to, it seemed like the more you could have a parent on board and inform them and not alienate them, the better the whole process would go. But it was such a tricky dance, because you want the teen to trust you, but you also want mom to trust you. And so, or dad, whoever the person is that's bringing them. And I don't know, it's tough. It's delicate.
It is. I think I always kind of try to figure out the headspace. If they're not, if like therapists aren't necessarily communicating with parents, some parents are cool with that. Like my aunt never speaks to my cousin's therapist. And I'm like, really? Like I love to talk to my parents and like kind of keep them. And my aunt's like, oh no, I really respect the boundaries. And I'm like, but you can be informed if you have a concern, like you can reach out. And that's something that I have heard is like, some parents feel uncomfortable reaching out. Like, is it my place? Should I do that? And I would say, yes, it's your right. First of all, you're paying for the sessions more often than not. So hello, you deserve to kind of know where things are going with the caveat that like, they're going to want to protect your child's confidentiality. But if you have a concern about your child who's in therapy, please reach out to your therapist. Like they need to know all the information possible because sometimes clients will kind of come in with rose colored glasses and be like, things are great. And then the parents like, things are not great. And here are a million ways that they're not. And we don't know unless you tell us. So
it's true. I love that idea because, there's the way that we see ourselves, right? And the way that we experience the world, the way we see it happening to us. And then there's the way others see us and that parental relationship. I mean, it gives you so much information that sometimes, because teens are still developing, they don't have that view of themselves. I just think it's a good perspective.
They can't remember what they had for breakfast some mornings when I see them. So like, I can't expect them to remember every major thing. But I'm thinking, like when we think of major assessments to test for things, like I'm thinking ADHD, I'm thinking autism, those are multi-person tests in that they ask the person who suspects they may have that. They ask a parent in their life about it. They ask maybe teachers about so like they're getting these different points of view about the same situation. And that is so important. And that's kind of my logic behind having the parent in the session too, is like, I love having all the breadth and depth of this experience. And like, I'll look at child and I'll say, okay, child, here's the question. And then I'll say, okay, parent, do you agree or disagree? Or I'm like, parent, you're smiling. Why are you smiling? What's that smile about? Or is the child not being very forthcoming? And it's great to hear how like two people in the same situation experience the situation in very different ways. So that's super helpful.
Yeah, well, and that goes into the whole attachment, like how they see
Mhm.
themselves, how they attach to their loved ones in their life. It often reflects how they view themselves. I mean, those are
Yeah.
all important. That's all important data. But I really like that, I guess, comparison with the assessments for autism and ADHD. It's
Mhm.
true. I mean, we're not using just one data collection.
Yes.
We're
Yeah.
using several, and then we see, because parents' view might not be accurate, kids' view might not be accurate. The truth might be somewhere between the two.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, I think that's super helpful. I love this.
Me too.
All
I
right.
think that's why we do it. I hope that's why we do it.
Yeah. Yes, it is. It is. It is. So we will do more of these. Do you have anything else you want to like add to this parental
Mhm.
teen therapy
I mean,
topic?
if your child is brave enough to ask for therapy, I'd say honor that. Even if you don't see things that are concerning to you, the fact that they asked for it is pretty huge. And, I have parents calling pretty frequently. Sometimes we can work together, sometimes we can't, just like for insurance purposes or whatever. But like, I will help any parent who wants to find therapy for their child. If I can't serve the family, I'm going to put them in good hands of somebody else who can. So I say, like, don't get discouraged, don't freak out. Just I don't know, do your due diligence and find a good therapist for your child. And yeah.
I love that too because of the I think the stigma. It is lessening.
Yeah,
The
for
teens
sure.
nowadays are not as self-conscious about mental health, I think, as years before. I don't know.
I
There's just
think so
something
too.
recently. But again, if your child's asking, yeah, yeah, I would definitely. I mean, it's better to be proactive.
Hmm.
And if you have
Absolutely.
concerns, right, for your teen, definitely get them in to see someone. It's not going to hurt anything.
No. And you've seen me do it. If a parent comes in and they're concerned on behalf of their child, but their child's like, I'm good. And I think the child's good, I'm gonna be like, Mom, you're golden. Like we don't need to work together. Like, I'm not gonna waste your time or waste your money. Like, child's presenting very content and happy with where they are in life. And I think that's just fine. And some parents are super appreciative of that. They're like, oh, thanks. And I'm like, you're welcome. Keep up the good work. Like,
I like that. I do. Well, and then it lets them know it's not going to hurt anything, right? You can always
yeah.
get somebody's clinical judgment.
Yeah.
But and that is, and make sure whatever they recommend is based on clinical judgment too. Cause I'll
Yes.
hear stuff like people with milder stuff will be like, you need to come every single week. And I'm like, this doesn't seem to fit, but you can
Mhm.
always get two opinions. You can go, you can't
Yeah,
see two different therapists at the same time, but you can get two opinions.
absolutely.
Go with that. Okay. Well, thank you, Monet.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.